Hey everybody, and welcome back to Lokalfeed show. On this episode, we sat down with our guest, Yasmine Khater. She is an award-winning business and marketing strategist, psychologist, and TEDx speaker. She has been featured in over 50 media platforms and even won a Stevie Award for Young Female Woman of the Year, as well as the World of Difference Award from the International Alliance of Women. In 2014, was named one of Cosmopolitan Magazine's Fun, Fearless Females, and have done speaking gigs all over the world, including TEDx in Barcelona in 2013. And the list does go on. There's so many tips and words of wisdom from her that we're so excited to share them with you. On this episode, we talk about self-worth, why it's harder for women to talk about money, what is the 1% success rule, how to go about it, or what does it even mean, some tips on how to get started on an idea that's been on your mind, the importance of being very clear on what you want to do, and why sales and money is not a dirty word. So before we get to it, if you want to support us, there are a few ways you can do so. Share an episode with your friends, check out our YouTube channel, Spotify and iTunes. So without further ado, remember, be bold and stay inspired. Here is Yasmine Khater.
I remember I first met you when my sister introduced. I don't know whether you still remember this.
Yeah, I remember.
So my sister introduced me to you.
I remember the story very vividly.
And then you asked me what did I do, right? And I was like, because I'm an introvert, so I'm pretty shy about things, and I don't like to, be boastful and stuff. So I was like, Then you said something. What did you say? Do you remember what you said?
I said I can't remember exactly, but I think it was about if you have a shop and you're paying the rent and you have salaries to pay for, and you're not sharing with the whole world why you do what you do, then people are missing out on it.
Yep.
And in the end of the day, even if you're an introvert, you have to stand for the vision that you're actually holding versus, so scared what? Don't want.
Yes, that's true. And on that day, I got schooled. I really got schooled, as in... No, you're not, because that moment, I think that was two years ago, right? That moment, the sentence that you told me, right, it made a big difference. Every time I was shy, or I didn't want to say what I do, with content. I love to do the things that I do, right? But the thing is, sometimes I'm shy. So I was like, I remember your words. I swear, I'm not even kidding. And every single time, my sister would always get back to me. Like she would literally tell me, remember, if you're shy, remember what Yasmine said. And then I was like, yeah, because
high five to
that. Because you said, these are the things, and that's partly the reason why I wanted to, learn more about you, because I don't know, I've kind of Googled you, because Google is everything, right? And I read about you, but I want to just have a deeper conversation with you, in a sense that if you share with us, what do you do, and what.
So I just started a company called the Sales Story Method.
Okay.
And what I'm doing is I'm helping tiny business owners master psychology in order to sell out their service. Mm-hmm. So what you talked about in terms of the fact that I'm shy, I'm not showing myself, I'm not being seen, that's typically a lot of it is not realizing some of your own psychological barriers that are holding you back. Mm-hmm. Whether it's I feel like I'm an imposter, I feel like a fraud, I feel like I shouldn't, I feel this is who I am, versus in reality, those things are still who you are, but there needs to be an element of having people know about what you do, or else it's sort of you're not doing anything. Yeah. People are going to be I wanted to have that kind of food, and then I never got to try it. Yeah. Or I wanted to work out with this kind of environment or this kind of values, and I can't find it. Mm-hmm. Right? All these things that people are struggling with problems all the goddamn time. Sales for me is not a dirty word. It's a beautiful thing, because people want the problem solved all the time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you said something about sales being the dirty word.
It's not a dirty word.
Yeah, it's not a dirty word. Apologies. So, when it comes to money, right? At the end of the day, you need to make money, right? In order for you to run that business and stuff. But why is it that we're very shy about asking for money, or, talking about sales?
So, also, money is not a dirty word. Okay. I have a whole manifesto about this. I'll share this with you afterwards. But I think it is for women specifically, it's much harder.
Okay.
And it's because we're always told things like when you're growing, I'm not sure about you, but like money does not grow on trees, or money is hard to come by, or don't ask for too much. It's very rude, right? So we end up having all these stories about money that actually are fake. They're completely fake, right? With money, you can actually give more, you can do more, you can create a bigger impact. Like money is actually a super powerful enabler. But instead of learning that message when we were a kid, we learned the fact that money is bad, money is evil. People who are rich are bad people. Like you're laughing, right? But you definitely heard those stories, right? And we hear them and we just think like, oh yeah, there probably is a couple. But there are also some that are wonderful philanthropists who use money as an enabler to solve like world problems. So I think that's kind of where the root comes from, is to understand like where does that stem?
Okay.
Like internally, what those stories are that make up what those things are, and then also just realizing like how to use money. I think there's a big gap for most women in terms of knowing that like how to look at money and also how to look at dreams, right? And money and dreams are sort of like the same. Like I'm going to the Arctic in June on an expedition, and it's expensive. It's $20,000. Like in the end of the day, like that's money that needs to be paying for this expedition, right? So I think a lot of times it's just really about knowing how to manage money and how to look at money as like no emotions, but just quantifiable, like, hey, I want to impact 100 lives this year. What does that actually mean? Or I want to be able to maintain a certain lifestyle and make sure that I'm protected, having health insurance, having a roof over my head. Basic things for you to be able to show up and do the work that you're supposed to do. If you don't have like a space like this for like a gym, how many people can you help? Like you can go on the streets, but at one point it's just like it gets really hot. Singaporeans complain. It's like, oh well, whatever. Versus you're having a space where everything is there, and then people who are, like your audience are Muslim women, it becomes easier for them to come and not feel uncomfortable working out because they have a safe, comfortable space that's designed for them, right? And if you don't have the money, you can't cover the cost of helping that and making that happen.
I mean, that's literally the breakdown of why we need money, and in the sense that it kind of like helps everything that goes by. Okay, self-worth, as in, what I mean, as in how much is asking too much. Let's say, okay, you're doing consultant work in that sense, right? So, sometimes how do we put the self-worth? How do we put the value of our services, or what we can provide, or what we can, do with our skills to help others? Self-worth. I mean, it's a very tricky thing. I feel. So what advice, or in your opinion, how does one approach that?
I think there's one issue, which is self-worth. Another issue is not understanding how much goes into doing a service.
Okay.
So I made a video last week about this, and I made fun of myself.
Okay.
So the first time I ever sold a coaching package to a client, that's probably 22, 23. It was like I had a job, it was my side project. I didn't know how to price, right? So someone wants to work with me, I'm like, okay, cool. Like every session would cost $30, and then like 10 would be 300. Sold the package, she was ecstatic, I was ecstatic. And then a friend of mine brought up, oh, Yasmine, like she's a lawyer, right? She's like, Yasmine, first of all, she's not impressed with my number. She's like $300 for 10 sessions, that's crazy.
Okay.
So she's like, so when you meet a client, like do you prepare before you meet a client? And I'm like, yeah. And then she's like, how much time? I'm like 60 to maybe 2 hours, depending on what the client needs, and I'll make things to get them ready. And it's like, do you have to go and visit the client? Are you doing it online, or are you doing it face to face? And I'm like, no, I'm doing face to face. This is before like the web for like having calls would be like so common, right? So I was like, okay, how long does it take to get to the place? I'm like, about 45 minutes. She's like, do you buy them a drink? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, how much does it cost? $5-10. And she's like, I guess you have to come back home. I'm like, of course. I'm like, she's totally getting how this pricing thing works, right? And then she's like, and then when you go back, you have to wrap up the session. You have to make notes for them and give it to them. And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, okay. So we're talking about 6 to 9 hours per 1 hour session. And I'm like, yeah. She's like, the guy at McDonald's makes more than you, right? Right. You take away the $30, the $5-10 for coffee. You got $20 left. You're spending 9 hours. I'm getting paid $2 an hour. Like most times we don't quantify how much things cost. So we say that we have low self-worth, but actually we don't know how we're to price. That's the real problem. Once you know how to price, you're like, oh, actually, like that was dumb. Like maybe I'm not worth $2 an hour. Like already, if I had a job, like at the time I was getting paid. Like I did my numbers. I took my salary divided by the number of hours I go to work. I made $23 an hour. So I charged 30 because 30 was like a lot, but I didn't count the 8 other hours that I was also working. To get that service done.
That's true.
Yeah, we're just like, okay, can.
Okay.
So I think a lot of times with even with whatever profession you're doing, it's just to realize like how much it does take to do not a normal service, an exceptional service, right? Because you can be like everyone else, but if you want to be the best at something, you need to realize, what does my client actually need? Like, what do I have to do for them to help them get the results that they want to get? Whether it's in health, whether it's in websites, whether it's in copy, whether it's in video, whatever it is, it's just to know that, hey, like, this is what it takes to actually make it happen.
Okay. But the, excuse me, getting the sweet spot, that's the hard part, right? Because, if you price too high, people might not want the service, right? But if you price too low, then you're kind of like, giving yourself like again you mentioned about, giving that time and stuff. So in your opinion on the advice, is it about testing the ground, trial and error to get it right? Because sometimes, what do you think?
I don't know, I look at it as like levels of like going up the ladder. So for me, $300 at the time, I was super ecstatic, right? And then when I realized that, I was like, I still didn't feel that confident, so I put $500. So it's not about pricing extremely high price at the very beginning when you haven't got that track record. You could just start off small, but then make it sure that every time you have a new client, you just slowly add, and test like your appetite of risk. Because if you're not like so gung-ho about going crazy, don't. You're gonna feel like a fraud, you're gonna feel like an imposter, you're gonna feel like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't be doing this. Versus like just taking incremental baby steps to get better, which is why I love the 1% success rule, right? If you get 1% better every single day, you're gonna be huge change in the end of the year. Versus like trying to do like 10,000 steps on day one when you can't even walk 1,000 steps a day. Like, it's just not gonna happen. Like, you're gonna be like, I give up, done. Barriers for me to do this is too hard. I quit, right?
Okay, yeah, that's true. Okay, you mentioned that. I wanted to ask you about the gone cycling. I mean, I was watching the TED Talk. So what? I mean, I know why you did what you do, but if you would share with us, why do you want to do that gone cycling? And
yeah. So, like, people are often shocked that when they discover that I was actually very shy as a kid. I just didn't like talking to people. I still don't like talking to people. I like to like my own personal space. But I think there was a trigger point when I realized at one point that I had all these dreams. I read a lot of books. And to make those dreams happen, you have to tell people what you want to make happen. Like, you can't just like wake up and then fast forward, you're 17, like, oh, my life was wonderful. You have to actually say what those wonderful things are. And you're going to mess up, and that's okay. So at the time, my dad had just passed away. And my dad was an exceptional man. And I remember asking him, he had cancer. I'm like, the bucket list?
Yes, the bucket list.
So it came up, I'm like, Poppy, what do you want to do? And he looks at me like, I've done it all.
Okay.
Right? And I remember hearing it, and I was like 21, and I was just like, what a stubborn man. Just tell me the freaking answer so I can be like that good daughter and I can give you whatever you want. But then after a couple of years after he passed away, I realized, if tomorrow was my last day, or next month was my last month, or next year is my last year, could I say, I've done it all? And I couldn't. I didn't even know what having it all was. Like, it didn't even make sense to me what having it all was. So as a result of that, I was like looking for it, and just by, again, life is all about coincidences. There was these 4 women who did this mountain bike race in East Timor for charity, and they raised money for like medicine. And I got really inspired, and I was like, oh wow, like I could do that too. Like, that sounds like something like I could do. I didn't know what that actually meant. Like, I just like, can I like just cycle, right? How hard
the gung-ho moment of
right? It's like, okay, yes, it's like the moment of insanity, I always call it. Like, it was discovered like on a trip to go to like Gunung Agong, which is like in Johor, and to climb a mountain. Because I was climbing Kota Kinabalu. Just like all these like, you get all these uncomfortable like small little steps, and all of a sudden you're like doing big little steps. So we did this race, and not only the race, but we did this race to raise money for women in East Timor. And at the time, my job was so uninspiring. So I'm like, okay, let me raise what my salary was in charity. So then I feel like at least like, I made some kind of impact. And that's kind of how the story happened.
So back then you were with a corporate job, a company, a big company, right? I mean, if I googled you, and then it's like you are featured in so many things. I mean, I won't list it down, but what made you change that route, or you had that aha moment, or you had that moment of clarity that you wanted to do something else?
So I'm actually like very not risk taker. Like people think that I am, but I'm not. So what I ended up doing is like when I started doing that and I realized, wow, that I could do this on the side of my job. Like what else could I do? And then after doing that, I realized that because where I was before the mountain bike race is I was so uninspired. So I'm like, how can I help other people who are uninspired in their work get more inspired? Did that on the side. So I had like side income coming in, side hustle. I'm all about a side hustle, right? For everything, just do the side hustle. Because then you get to explore if you actually want to do it versus actually quitting your job and like following your passion. It's pretty like most of the time we dream the passion versus actually wanting to do the passion. So I was actually making quite decent money. I was making half of my salary. So I was like, oh wow, like I got like half my salary of this thing that I actually like doing. Like shouldn't I just quit what I'm doing and just do this? And if I spent all my time, then I could definitely replace my salary. But my mom and my aunt were a bit worried. They're like, oh yeah, you know, maybe you should go to business school. You're too young to be in business. Like you're also like a 23-year-old like career coach. Like who the hell are you to give career advice? Like, and it's just like, okay. So then I went to business school and then got sidetracked and then went back doing coaching and sales consultancy. But it all happens not because you know from day one. It all happens because it's like an immersion of like things that you discover, things that you screwed up on, things that you needed help on, and then you help people solve those problems.
True. So you, after that, you went on to, after gone cycling, you raised the funds, and then you started a company, or you co-founded a company, which is the VSS.
No. So before that, I went to business school in Spain. And then I ended up, it's a really random stint of my life, working in an Islamic finance center. Right? I speak Arabic, I speak Malay, so it's kind of a useful language set. Not even fluently, but like whatever, good enough. But like, and then this lady's like, oh, like, do you want to work for me? I'm like, sure, just a couple of months. So I did 3 months. 3 months became a year. And then again, I was still doing the coaching on the side. So still never just like jumping something that's new. I was building my brand, all these different things. So I did the coaching thing for about 2 years, and then I came back to Singapore and then launched the VS Story, which is like a storytelling agency that would help brands tell better stories through video content.
Which then you mentioned that you're starting your own company, which is the agency. How long ago was that TED Talk? Was it
probably 7 years ago now?
Wow. I mean, you've done it all, kinda, right?
No, that's the thing. Like, there's no like one standard. Like everyone has their own standards. So some people like will say, oh yeah, well like you're so lucky. I'm like, no, you have to decide what it is for you. Like I have friends who really wanted to like have families, so they have 3 kids, right? And for me, that's their vision. I've done it all, right? They obviously want to do more, but that's kind of where they are right now. So I think it really depends on like what is it for you. Like, do you want to get better at a hobby? Do you want to do a side project? Do you want to, whatever that may be? There's like no right or wrong answer. Just like whatever that's on your list.
So that was on your. I mean, you created your own bucket list in that sense, right? In that way. In your TED Talk, you said something which. If you want something, you'll make it happen, right? I mean, the thing is, it's always easier said than done, right? As in, if to start something is always easier said than done, right? But how does one go through that barrier? I mean, we have conversations with people who have big dreams or things that they want to start and stuff like that. But sometimes they just, they have this big brick wall in front of them. So, I mean, what would your advice or your wise wisdom? So
I think if you want something, you can still make it happen. I just think the blocks that come along the way are the first thing. You need to be very clear what you want. Like most people will have like these half-baked ideas, and they're like, oh yeah, I kind of want to do this. I'm like, okay, but like let's kind of flesh it out a little bit. And most of the people don't want to flesh it out. They kind of just want to say, oh yeah, that was so cool. Oh yeah, that was my idea, it's done already. Like I'm reading right now the book Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. And she's like, yeah, like people ask if she wrote Eat, Pray, Love. So that's my idea. I was like, yeah, but you didn't write it. Like I'm the one who ended up writing it. So that's the first thing. Like not being clear, like what it is you want to do. The second block that I see is people also being confused about how to do it. So I think in our brains we like to like underestimate how much time things take. We're just like, okay, I'm gonna start a business, I'm gonna be a rock star from day one. No, you're not. It is probably very unlikely. It'll take you most likely 4 times longer than whatever you have in your mind. People typically quit before the 4 times longer happens because in our mind we're just like not clear. Like, we do things in the wrong order. Like especially in business, people like will set up a business card, register, like yes, all these things are nice, but like the first job is to get a client. Like that's your first job in business. But instead of doing that, people want to do the other stuff and they're like, why isn't it working? The third thing as well is not realizing the barriers to actually getting it done. So the barriers might be getting the right kind of information, right? And most people in your network or somebody you know will know somebody who can tell you what you have to do, right? But we don't like to put ourselves out there and get those things in place. So when people say that they can't get something done, it's like, yeah, but is it because you're clear? Is it because you know how to get there? Do you really actually want it? I'm sure in the fitness world, people say, oh, I want to get fit. And then after a week, they're like, actually, I want to get nasi lemak or my biryani or my murtabak, right? I want to get fit, but not that much. I think it'd be cool if I got fit. I dream about getting fit, but I don't really, if it doesn't happen, I'm also okay kind of thing. Okay. So if you don't want it enough, you're not going to get it. And then the last thing is just the barriers to be able to understand what you have to do to make it happen.
I mean, at the end, I believe that it's also about mental strength, right? Because the mental strength is the one that's going to get you through those days of no's, those days of, oh shucks, what's going to happen next? Or you plan something, but shit just happens. I think, is that, do you agree? As a mental strength is one of the things that we have to kind of train our minds to.
No, for sure. One of my best friends was visiting last week, and she's like, Yasmine, you're like a elastic band. You just bounce, something happens, you come back up again. You bounce, you come back up. And I was just like, oh, okay, that's a cool analogy. But I think what just kind of helps me with that is the fact that I like to walk, I like to go for runs. So when I just walk or you go for a run, you realize that you are always in motion. So even if it's shitty right now, and you're gonna have shitty days, you can literally walk a step and you change your world and how you see it. And then you walk some more and you change the way and how you see it.
Very good. That's very interesting. I didn't see it that way, but that's actually a very interesting analogy of the running and stopping. You actually see it in a different perspective.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what life is about. It's just if you feel like you're stuck, then you're not going to move forward. But if you take a couple of steps, actually you're moving forward. Yeah. And it may not happen the way you want it to, but we'll get there.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned something about what if money wasn't an obstacle? But what do you think of that? I know what you think of that, but if you could share with us, because I think money has sometimes is an obstacle, right? As in, sometimes we don't know where to get our money or what. Okay, in order for us to get started, we need kind of money. Unless you come from rich parents and stuff like that. Most of the times, it always ends up with we need money.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I think money is an injection people use to not start their projects. So they're not even going out there and asking for money, they just don't even start.
Okay.
So I think they use it as a block before even starting. I think we're talking about before this interview started, but you want to do this project bigger, I gave you the government grants. I've already given you an access point to get money.
Yeah.
If you didn't apply for that, that's nothing to do with the fact that there's no money. You just say, oh yeah, I really want, but it's so expensive, how can I do this? Actually, you can do it, it already exists. But we make those blocks. Even for the whole fundraising, we had a goal of raising $50,000, right? I didn't have that money. I don't I was 22, maybe 23, 22 maybe. My friends who were all giving money did not have a lot of money, right? So it's not because everyone I knew had money to give me this thingy. It's because of the fact that you were going out there and just focusing on that one kind of goal, and then you just kind of just sharing. And then you become very creative. So even halfway through the fundraiser, we didn't raise enough money. So we said, let's do a documentary, film it, have a documentary screening, so we can have an event and sell fabrics at the event. So all these ideas come to be able to fund something. So I think it's just about taking the first couple of steps. Literally, you have a whole marathon to walk, but just taking those steps in the right direction versus saying, oh, I don't have money.
Okay.
Because most people will cut out their dreams by saying, I don't have money.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, because sometimes it's very hard for someone to actually put themselves out there. When I first met you, I was afraid to say what I do. Not afraid, I'm more this is what I do, but I don't say it with I'm proud of it. But the thing is, I decide I know I'm proud of it. But sometimes people are just afraid to go out there. When you put yourself out there, right, the mistakes and all that, it's very hard for a person to go to want to do that. So what would you share with us in that sense? Taking first step. Everyone says take a first step, right? But it's actually easy. It's harder than
so
in reality.
I shared with you earlier, I was really shy as a kid, right?
Yeah.
So I'm in a student group called Isaac.
Okay.
And in Isaac, they help develop young leaders. And I remember my first meeting, I must have been like 17, 18. They asked me to stand up and say my name and what I study.
Okay.
I couldn't even say that, right? So I think it's just about like putting yourself in a space to get challenged. For me, it was just saying my name.
Okay.
Like, it wasn't even like go and pitch what you do. It's literally that first step of like standing up and being like, hi, my name is Yasmine. That took me like 15 minutes.
Okay.
Until the guy was like, it's okay, we'll try again next week. And I was like, oh my gosh, anxiety. And then it went from that to going and spending a summer in Estonia running workshops for kids. It took me a month to run a workshop because I would stand there and just stutter and feel extremely uncomfortable that people were looking at me, because I'm like, I'm not like, people shouldn't look at me, like it's just uncomfortable to be in front of an audience. And then from there going, like, it's just, you know, like, it's not like you become boom from day one. It's just like the small steps. And that's why I love the 1% rule. If you get better 1% every day, like 1%, you can get better 1%. Like, you can do something better 1%, then you're better at the end of the year much more than you were a year ago.
Okay. What about like critics or naysayers? I mean, sometimes partly the reason why people don't want to put themselves out there is because, you know, they get all this negativity or feedbacks that they might not, you know, understand, or they feel that, oh shucks, okay, I'm nobody, you know, people are giving me all these negative feedbacks, or maybe I shouldn't do this because, you know, it doesn't seem like, you know, it's working out and stuff like that. So yeah, what's your opinion on that?
I think you should dump all those friends. Dump them all. No, I'm being dramatic. Okay. Not really, but I am being dramatic. So I think a big part of it is make sure you have a tribe around you. I think any kind of behavioral change, it's hard. Like, we as human beings do not like change. Like, we are programmed by flight and fight to just be like, I'm comfortable, I have food, I have shelter, like, why change? But there are people around you who are a little bit insane. Like little bit, not even big insane. They make you think that insane is normal. And then it changes the standard of what is normal, what is not normal. I've been part of different groups for years now. So they know me extremely well, to the point that, like, I'm so scared to go to the meeting sometimes. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're gonna call me out on my bullshit. Because they, like, you know, they kind of keep you accountable, they push you, they ask you, they care about you. So if you have everyone in your world who is not giving you that support, then go make new friends. Like, you can go on Meetup, you can go onto different groups, you can find people who have the same interests, same hobbies, and meet people who are like on that journey with you, because that's going to get you more inspired than, for example, like all the naysayers who are just going to be like party poopers, the party poopers of the group.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but sometimes it's a bit hard, as in, because then they're your friends that they might be your friends who like are there for you for the beginning, but then somehow your journeys don't meet and stuff. So you just gotta be brave enough to like, hey, look, you know, okay.
And I think the hard part as well is that, at least for me personally, I always wanted to make all my friends like do stuff that they wanted to do. Like, I was just like, oh, but you can do it too. And at one point, you can't be people's cheerleader unless they want to have those change happen. So it's also about accepting that people are also on their own journey, and you cannot pull them along with you if they don't want to go there.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think that's also important to realize. And there's no right way of living life.
Yeah, that's right.
I was watching this talk by Ashton Kutcher.
Ashton Kutcher?
I love him. Anyway, he was talking about the speech at the Teens Award. Right? It came up like yesterday in my Facebook feed. And he was talking about how, like, we're always told this advice that, you know, the world is in a certain way. You have to get a certain kind of job and do whatever and live by the rules of the world. But like, the people who made the rules are people like you and me. Like, they're just people who decided, actually, I like these rules better than these rules. And that's all that it is, right? So it's up to us to kind of design those rules and build a life that we want to have, and show up doing those things that we want to do.
Yeah. Okay. That's very awesome. I mean, that's very interesting advice, because sometimes it can be hard, and you just gotta be a little braver. I guess.
Bit, only 1%.
Yeah, 1%.
Only 1%.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna ask you about your expedition that you're fundraising this June, right?
Yes.
So why did you decide to embark on that?
Yeah, so this is kind of like a full circle thing, because I discovered this guy, Robert Swan, when I was 17.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I read about him, I was like, this guy's insane, like, how cool.
Okay, hang on. In case we don't know, in case those people who don't know who Robert Swan is, if you can...
So Robert Swan is an explorer, expeditioner, who's the first guy in history to walk to the North and the South Pole. Yeah. Now, he just happened when he's walking to the South Pole, he walked into the hole in the ozone layer. Right? NASA had discovered it, he walked under it, he shows up, his eye color changes, his skin melted, right? Because of the massive rays. And you don't have to be a genius to discover, like, this is not how the world should go down. Like, this is not normal kind of thing. So he ended up launching something called 2041, which is a foundation to create awareness about, like, the poles and how climate change is actually affecting the whole world, right? And a small summary of it is like, if we have the poles melting, you have water levels rising. When water levels rising, you have temperature of the ocean changing. You have corals dying. Corals are actually part of the thing of actually having us to have oxygen to breathe, right? So it's all interconnected. And we don't know this, but we're like, oh yeah, it's so wet the poles melt. No, we die, we lose the fish, we lose our oxygen. Like, it's a whole thing. So I discovered that when I was 17, and I didn't have any money, so I used it as an excuse, right? I didn't have any money. I applied for the scholarship, didn't get it. I applied again, didn't get it. My friend got it. Okay. Very proud of her. Okay. But I didn't get it, and I was just like, okay, whatever, like, not for me. Okay. Move on. And then last year, I was feeling a bit uninspired, and then on Instagram, on Insta stories, his face comes up. He was like speaking at an event, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like, it's Robert. Like, Robert is there. Like, who would have thought 15 years later he'd come back in my life? And it was on my mind for like a month, and I was just like, oh, maybe it's a sign. Like, maybe I should take it. So I applied. I got it. Again, the money is still a lot of money. But it's like, fuck it. Like, I can just raise the money. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, so right now I'm going in June. I've raised a quarter of it. Okay. And then just continuing to kind of promote it. Approaching also some companies that can hopefully sponsor it as well. Okay. So it's just about, like, it doesn't happen at 17 because it was too uncomfortable for me then, but at like 33 it's a bit more comfortable for me. So the whole thing is to realize that just don't compare yourself to someone's like middle of their journey. Compare yourself to where you are yesterday.
Yeah. I guess everyone has their own path, as in the right moments where they need to. Okay. Gonna ask you something about, so you're going in June. So you're going to do a documentary about it by yourself, or
no? So it started off with like a small little documentary. Okay. And now we're also looking for funding to do a full-blown 8-part series about climate change. Okay. So again, like, something starts like, oh, cool, and then something like, oh, I want to work with you on this, and then it becomes a whole lot bigger than you initially signed up for. Okay. So that's how life happens. Okay. So
you're doing it on your own, or someone else is going to be with you?
No, so I'll be filming on my own, and then we're going to be filming across Asia, different markets, and then we're going to put them all together and edit it together.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, do you, I don't know, as in, you mentioned your TED Talk, right, about starting something. So I realize as I'm sitting down with you, you're always starting something. Is it because you are, sometimes when you get uninspired, you just want to, like, take a step back and just ignite your I don't know, your emotions a bit? I don't know. Is it you always,
So there's a beautiful analogy that I got to discover last year. Have you heard of forest bathing?
No.
So it's a Japanese thing. You walk in the forest and you just like look at nature, and like you walk like super slow. Like I walked 3,000 steps in like 4 hours. Like super slow, right? Okay. And what was beautiful is that we had to watch a river, and the river, like, again, not a river, like a little small stream. Okay. And for like 20 or 30 minutes, I'm watching this stream, and I realized sometimes life, it goes really fast. Like sometimes the river goes really fast. It just kind of, sometimes it gets very calm. So for me, I realized that whenever it gets calm, I enjoy the calm. And then at one point, I'm like, okay, the river's going to start again. So what's going to review the river?
Okay. Okay, because you mentioned that you're a shy person, but I think along the way I feel that you've kind of like bloomed in a sense. I don't know, it's very interesting to hear your journey.
But I think the problem is people think that you have to be extroverted or introverted. I think like you just need to find what it is and just manage that emotion. So for me, like, I spend a lot of time by myself as well. So it's just because I don't like people. So it's just like, okay, like, you can be social when you need to be, and then you can also be not when you don't want to be.
That's true.
So there's no, like, again, right formula. It's a formula that fits you, your temperament, what you want, and so forth. Okay.
I was going to ask you what are your plans in the coming year or 2 or 3 years. Then I realized that you're amazing because it's at that moment you feel some passionate about something and you just start it. So I'm sure if I ask you what's your plan in the next 2 or 3 years, you wouldn't What would be your answer?
Oh, it's super clear actually.
Okay.
Documentary series.
Okay.
And then also my new company, Sales Story Method. I'm helping small business owners master psychology and sell their services.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of education pieces. So there'll be like, you can go over to my page, you can go and see my videos that I'm launching twice a week with like just small tips that you can learn. And then courses around that, around money and sales, because I don't think they're dirty words.
Oh yeah, you mentioned something about money not being a dirty word, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna have some interesting questions. Okay, I'm gonna ask you, what is your why? What is the drive that you get up in the morning? What is your why?
I think it's like, I look at it back to, I know it sounds a bit strange, but I look back to my father, and I just think like, can I leave the world better than when I came here? And that gets me excited, because like, that can be on an individual level, on an organization level, or whatever I apply myself to. Now what my why is all about individual.
Okay.
Because I find that like the greatest like impact is when you change someone's life, and you just see how their lives bloom. Like I've had some of my old clients who were like small business owners get out of debt, who are now living their dream life, following their passion, and that gets me very excited. That to really help people understand that like you can literally have true freedom if you wanted to, and that gets me just quite excited about life.
Okay. Where's your why? Okay. What is something that most people don't know about you that you're really proud of?
I think my friends.
Okay.
Yeah, I have some really solid friends that we've been friends for a long time that super grateful for. Like the one who came last week, like my best friend, we've been friends since we were like 13 years old. It took a lot of investment of time to keep those friendships. But just very supportive, very loving, and just very safe, and makes the world much easier.
I wanted to ask you, sorry, because you're a world traveler, right? You've been to quite a few places, so what do you think of? I mean, does a travel kind of like you kind of open up and you kind of see the different culture? Kind of like, does that give you a different impression of people, or does it give you, I don't know, you learn a bit more about what we humans are about, right? Because you kind of experience a different kind of cultures. So I don't know, would you think that you would be who you are today if you were just in Singapore?
I think it's up to you how you want to like live it. So like you can live in Singapore and only be friends with the people that you went to school with, and that's it. And you could be in Singapore, try new activities every single weekend, whether it's going and volunteering with animals, or whether it's like learning a sport or something. So what's cool about Singapore is like a melting pot. It's like it literally brings the whole world to our fingertips, which is why I think Singapore is an amazing city. But it's also how you choose to live it, right? If you just kind of don't do those things, then I think travel was very eye-opening for me. But it also taught me that essentially we have a lot more similarities than we have dissimilarities. Like we all want to do good. We all want to feel loved. We all want to be safe. Like it's actually fundamentally human needs are not that different.
What is your most humbling experience?
I would say that's actually in university, or actually in high school. So my mom used to drag me, like literally, to go and volunteer at the Children's Cancer Hospital. Right? Drag.
Where was this?
In Egypt.
Okay.
And it's like this horrible experience where these kids are dying, right? And you're like a 13, 14-year-old kid being forced to like, just like, not force, it was forced, but like to go and chat with the kids and give them toys. And I don't know, I think like the second or third time I was there, I was like looking at a mother, and I remember like just asking like, oh, just like, you know, hopefully God will take care of your kid. You don't know what to say, right? And she's like, He will. And I was just like, wow, like that's the beautifulness of faith, and having that like strong belief that actually everything's going to be okay, regardless of what you have or don't have. And that for me has been like one of those things where like, wow, like it's just very powerful.
Okay. The 3 truths or lessons, if today was your last day, what would you leave? Your words of wisdom.
Wow, so deep.
Yeah.
So I just wrote an article about like advice to my 20-year-old self.
Okay.
But one would be is that you are loved.
Okay.
I think a lot of times we feel like we're alone when actually we have people who are there if we just ask them to. I think it's like just realizing that all the self-doubt is just self-doubt. Like as you get older, you realize, wow, that was so stupid. Like that was so stupid. And then you just don't realize it at the time. I think the ultimate one is just like, just try. The worst is you fail, but people won't remember that you failed. And just be kind to yourself.
Okay, so definition of legacy. What is your definition of legacy?
So I'm going to answer the question in a story.
Okay.
Because I think it's probably the easiest way.
Okay.
So as a kid, my mom was like, she's amazing, but she would like nail these stories in our heads. Okay. And this one was about like this one girl wanted to change the world, right? So she went and she was like talking and speaking and doing all those things. And then as she got older, she realized the world may be a bit too big, right? So let me focus on my region. Let me focus on Asia. So she went and did the same thing around Asia, and then again, maybe Asia's too big. So she focused on China, right? Because that's where she's from. And again, went and did that. And then realized, China may be a bit too big. Let me focus on my state. And then my city. And then my community. And then my family, and then myself. Okay. And I think a legacy is just being the best version of yourself and inspiring everyone around you to become the better version of themselves.
Okay. Is it, I mean, because I read somewhere, if I remember this correctly, you want for businesses to create impact in that sense, right? The impact of like, bringing joy or bringing goodness to the world in that sense, right? So is that what you focus on most of the time? So to create that positive impact?
I think the positive impact comes from just being kinder to yourself, because I think most of the times we hold ourselves back. So for me, that's what legacy is. It's just like realizing that just literally being the best version of yourself will help you get everyone around you being better as well.
But that, I mean, personally, I have like days where, you just don't want to, you're just tired of doing the things. I mean, we're giving out so much good advice and stuff. Sometimes you're just tired. So did you ever have to overcome that? I mean, do you ever have to
like burnout?
Yeah, like burnout. Like, oh my gosh, I want to like, just take a break. I mean, everyone has it, but
yeah, for sure.
How do you deal with that?
I think it's about knowing what grounds you. Okay. So now I have these like non-negotiable practices that I do.
Okay.
Before I was just like, oh, whatever, everything can. And now it's like, no, like every morning I must sit down. I must have time to actually think about my day. Okay. I have time to journal. I like being in nature, so I make it a point that every single weekend I'm in a park for a couple of hours, just enjoying nature. So I just think there's some things that you need to do that will fuels you. Again, there's no right thing, but it's about making sure that your energy is replenished. Because if you constantly give, at one point you're just going to take, and it's just hard.
Yeah, it does get hard.
Yeah.
Okay. 5 seconds fun, because this is a fun bit. Okay, so 5 questions, 5 seconds. Why are you laughing at me? No, but it's really fun. Okay, this sounds really fun. 5 seconds and 5 questions, okay? We're coming to the end of it. I mean, yeah. Craziest thing on your bucket list. You have a bucket list, right?
Yeah.
Craziest thing on your bucket list.
I think now she's going to the Arctic.
I think it's the crazy. Okay, I don't know. Some people are just going naked at some, like, I don't know. Okay, so
I've already done the naked thing in the ocean.
You really did?
Yeah, skinny dipping is something not that big a deal.
Check.
Not even on my list. No, my list. Like also, like I realized with the list, at one point the list doesn't matter. Like at the beginning when I was younger, I was like, I have to check off things on my list, and now I'm just like, whatever. Like who cares the shit about the list? Like it's there, it's cool, but there's things that you want to do, everything that's new, so it's fine as well.
That's true. Okay. Nasi lemak or laksa?
Oh my gosh, both.
I know it's hard, right? Nasi
Laksa.
Laksa. Okay, why laksa though?
I love laksa. I love them both. You're asking like the hardest question ever.
Okay. If life were a video game, what would some of the cheat codes be?
The cheat codes?
Cheat codes, like extra life, or you can't die, or like extra. I don't know. Invisible.
You can do it.
You can. Okay.
Try harder. Okay. One step at a time.
Okay. What do you think is your animal spirit?
Oh my god, Mata lizard. I'm obsessed with them.
Seriously?
Obsessed. I even have an Insta story where I go to Macritchie every weekend.
Yeah.
And I post my morning stories.
Okay.
So it's quite cute. Like, hi, my name is Moni. I think it's cute. But everyone else thinks it's cute.
Yeah, but why though? Is it? I don't know. Is it?
I don't know. I feel like they're so chilled.
Okay.
And they like kind of in their own element. And they're like hanging out. They're swimming. They're climbing trees. They're just like, whatever, like it's my world. And I think they're beautiful. They're beautiful creatures. My friend described it as like, yeah, they're very calm, and the moment you piss them off, like really piss them off, they're gonna come and like, so maybe I'm like that, I don't know.
Okay, maybe. No one has tested the okay. If you had a superpower, what would it be?
Superpower.
Is there any advice that you wanna? I mean, the conversation that we had, I think is full of advice.
Oh my gosh, it's like so many advice. Already.
Yeah, I know it's so many advice. Or is there something else that you might want to add that I didn't ask you about and stuff? Like,
I'm just gonna emphasize again.
Okay.
Just the 1%. Get 1% better every single day.
Okay.
That's all you have to do.
Okay. Yeah, that's okay. How can we support you? I know through the expedition, right? You're raising funds for the expedition, which is happening.
Give me money.
And you have a website, your Instagram or Facebook, if you
so you can follow me on Sales Story Method. I'm posting videos on Instagram as well on Facebook. Comes twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays, where I give very short tips. It's like a very long, helpful interview, but I hope it's helpful.
Okay.
So just short videos, like 2-3 minutes long.
Okay. Your social media, Instagram or Facebook, anything?
So the Sales Story Method or Yasmine Khater.
How do you pronounce it? I always Khater.
So when I was a kid, just to give you another story, my email was ykhater, right? At whatever the domain was.
You almost revealed your email.
I
don't use it anymore. Okay.
Probably was like some random.
Okay.
Maybe it's Hotmail. I don't remember. I don't have it anymore. And everyone was like, "Who's YK? And why do you hate them?" Okay. So my last name is called. It's like literally spelled hater.
Yeah.
So K hater.
Yeah.
So in Arabic, it's Khater. But for people who can't speak Arabic, it's like Khater. I'm like, okay, my name is Khater. But whatever, it doesn't make a difference.
Okay, so Yasmine. I should be able to pronounce this, but I can't know.
Yeah,
Hater.
Khater.
Hey,
not bad.
Khater. She money, man. That's all. True. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Yasmine, and thank you for being here. Thank you, Yasmine, for being here. You've been such an inspiration. You truly are. You're like.